Thank you all for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. And I'm really pleased to be able to introduce to all of you. Many of you already know Raman, but I think not everybody does, which is why I wanted to have this presentation by him. Um, Raman is currently the Associate Director of the Biostatistics Core Facility. And in fact, he's been leading the efforts to support biostatistics consultation at the MUHC RI for the last few years now. He started off in the SIM, the facility was in the SIM previously, but has now finally moved to the core. Um, just a few words about Raman himself. He completed his PhD in epidemiology at the International Institute of Population Studies in Mumbai, India, and he did a postdoctoral fellowship at the Université de Montréal. Between his studies and his work experience, he has extensive experience in the area of cancer epidemiology research, and he's got a number of publications spanning areas of population health research, occupational health research, and clinical research with a focus on oncology. And he has worked closely in Montreal with some researchers whom we all know very well, Jack Simiatiki at the University of Montreal and Eduardo Franco here at McGill. And I'm just mentioning this mainly because this is reflected in the collaborations that Raman has been able to bring to the biostatistics core facility. Basically, he has used his network of collaborations to fuel the core facility. And he's now, I would say, brought it to a point where it's a thriving unit and it has a lot of potential in the coming years. So you should all take note of what the facility is doing right now and uh, share with Raman and with others involved with it your ideas of how it can do more to serve the MUHC-RI community. Um, I'd also just like to share a few words about my own perspective about the biostatistics consulting in this in McGill and also in uh, MUHC-RI. You know, what I've noticed over the last 2 decades as a biostatistician myself, what I've noticed is that this is a much needed service. All of us who are biostatisticians know there's a great need for it, and people are constantly contacting us saying, you know, can you help? And somehow the structures that we had set up really did not prioritize this important service properly. And I would say for many years, in my mind, a biostatistics consultant was a solitary individual languishing in some dark room with zero contact with the biostatisticians and the epidemiologists who are researchers at our institutes. And I think that finally we've hit on a good formula with Raman in the lead of the unit currently. I see that there's a much better momentum. A lot of projects are going on, and there's also been some good efforts by Kaberi, Dominique. There's a nice infrastructure that has been built around the unit to connect it with researchers in a formal way. So these are, I think, very promising times for this unit, and I will let Raman take it from here and tell us the experiences and stories they've experienced from his point of view.
Thank you very much, Nandini. Thanks for chairing as well as for that great introduction. You've been wonderful. Thanks a lot. And thank you very much to everyone who've been here taking time and then just sharing some of these experiences with you. It's really, I'm very glad to give this presentation because the biostatistics consulting unit, you know, as a name itself formed, is just dearly we call it like a BCU. It's just baptized like last year, somewhere in the summer. So in next few minutes, we are just going to share some of the experiences and some of the stories from this unit. So the basic idea of having this unit around is with the objective that, you know, it's supposed to provide a comprehensive, cost-effective expertise in these biostatistics and research methods. We can discuss more about cost-effectiveness, what it is, but as we go. But we also offer biostatistical services right from the design till the end, like a dissemination. So under one roof, we try to provide all these services. It's like a single window policy. So you consult us, then probably whatever we can do within our capacity, we should able to support your team. And another mandate we have is to assist the grant applications and then supporting these grant applications. This is a big part of our academic life at RI-MUHC, because most of the researchers, particularly early career researchers, they do approach with different requirements, whether it comes to budget, whether it comes to sample size calculations or randomization parts of the analysis, and then sometimes they just write themselves, but they want to have extra eye from statisticians. So some of those things. And also finally, an academic institute like RI-MUHC, we need to have these units in place as a part of infrastructural development. And this is something biostatistical unit, BCU, is part of that framework. So more in specific, what we can do is, as I just mentioned, we help with grant proposals, we help with sample size calculations and randomization schemes. We help with within our capacity, whatever we can help with the design aspects as well as the data analysis. Finally, we have several epidemiological and population studies of large scale as well, and clinical trials of all phases except phase 1, because we don't have expertise in PK type of analysis, but we are slowly developing that area. However, the big, we have another large scale surveillance projects like administrative databases like RAMQ or StatScan or other administrative databases. So one of the basic aims is, like, when we work with the researchers, and probably they have their staff or their students or trainees, whatever it is, the basic aim education mission is to have the knowledge transfer. So one of our aim is also to make the students and everyone self-sufficient, so that the knowledge transfer is equally. We are a small group right now. We are 3 of us, myself and Xun, our senior statistician, and then Frederick. He's our junior biostatistician and also a SAS programmers right now. We are stationed at a MGH core facility on the first floor of our wing, so like a new facility. And then this unit started somewhere like last summer. We started all 3 of us started at different time periods, but somewhere between June and July 2019. And there was a circular, just to mention about the unit. And also we have a web page under the services. I kind of, maybe if you click on this link, then you will see the contact details and also where you can reach with your team needs. So it's this is all about unit details. Apart from the unit, we also have a big support on the administrative side as well as the management side. Dominic foresee all the activities like overall management, whether it comes to the budget or resource management or other aspects. And also Kim helps us with, she's a core assistant. She helps us with different aspects of administrative support, like sending invoices and tracking them, and also developing some contract templates and things like that. So according to mandate we have, the priority may be given to our internal RI-MUHC, MUHC researchers. However, it's very difficult to disentangle like a McGill family, because most of the researchers, they do have cross appointments. So McGill and RI-MUHC researchers, but we have a different hour tag. So the rate tag differs. When it comes to the RI-MUHC researchers, it's $75 per hour. That's what we charge as a service charge. And for the McGill researchers, it will be $90 per hour. And then outside researchers, we don't have many outside pharmaceutical companies or biotech companies right now, but mostly the government, Quebec government projects and others, we charge $125. Being supported, it's been a great initiative by the core leadership recently. We've been supported by the faculty. These great professors are behind us. If we have any complex issues and if we have some advice, we can always go and to them or send an email, ask their opinion and things like that. So this also provides training opportunities and student, incorporating the students in the consultation programs, etc. Right now, the committee consists of Dr. Platt, Dr. Dendekuri, and Dr. Benedetti, Dr. Elham, and then Dr. Smith. So, and then probably it may expand soon, but recently we met at least once this summer. And then probably we are scheduled to meet in next couple of months. That's what it is. So with that, I'll stop. The way I kind of try to talk to you guys is I would try to blend experiences as well as about the unit details. The first part, I just talk about the unit details. I'll come to the details in a few minutes. We'll just review one of these experiences we have here. This is a project we have with Dr. Sadige's team at head and neck surgery team. And then this project is specifically, it's on a new intervention or a therapeutic intervention they would like to try on neoadjuvant chemotherapy follow surgery. The usual practice, the clinical, like the standard practice here is concomitant chemoradiation. That's what the standard practice here. But when Dr. Sadeghi, he came here a couple of years before he started this new therapy. And now there was a requirement that we have to compare these two arms and then make a comparison and publish this work. So here the study comes with the primary outcomes. The primary outcomes are disease-specific survival, and then this is free survival. So I'm not getting into the definitions and other things, details of technical, but we can discuss them if we have time later. And also, there are several secondary outcomes that comes with like a toxic adverse events following a common terminology criteria of AE5, version 5, and also surgical adverse events like infections or other complications. Then also, there is one thing that is common in these surgeries is a feeding tube. One is a prophylactic in the standard practice, and also there is other types of these pegs. So this is one of the indicators. This is one of the quality of life indicators, like how long they will be on a peg. That's something we are interested to see. So for this, there is a small issue because this is a new method he would like to introduce. And then historically, we have patients from MUHC in the CCRD cohort. So when we try to juxtapose these people, we have some issues. So it is like a before and after method. However, we try to do a frequency matched analysis. I just call this like a pseudo randomization. However, what we essentially did was we try to develop, we consider all these the patients. We have 52 patients in NAC plus yes group. And then we try to form, usually it should be based on the non-clinical criteria. Let's say age, smoking, or sex. Other types of non-clinical variables are ideal. But maybe because of the advice of one of the reviewers, we added 2 more variables. So based on different variables, we developed these categories and then try to juxtapose these 2 groups. And then we did standard analysis. So here, we should be able to comfortably publish this paper by just using this frequency matching. So, for example, in this case, you can see that the regular Kaplan-Meier. I'm not going to go into details, but there are different indicators. We just used like overall survival, disease-free survival, and it comes to the this is like a disease-specific survival and disease-free survival, distinct metastasis-free survival. All these indicators, because of some concerns, only one of these indicators come out as significant, and then there is another indicator, as I just mentioned, quality of life, that the duration on the feeding tube is another indicator. So on this outcome, it clearly shows the new intervention, whatever the therapy they would like to introduce, is really doing much better relative to the standard practice. So on this pretext, it's really this new intervention is really effective. So and then in the same line, we could able to publish another paper, and also Dr. Sadeghi, he tried to put this as a CIHR grant in a couple of projects. So that is briefly about the project. I just want to review with you what's going on. Just an example, the type of projects we are handling here. So going back to the unit. So we have these multiple projects, as I explained, and then we work with different PIs and on different projects. And we supposed to track our time, and then so that this is service oriented, so we will be sending invoices to pay for the service. The most effective way, we just introduced with the help of management. They introduced recently, a year before, Clockify to track our times. Let's say most of us, whomever worked on that particular project, we just tick the project, the name of the projects, and then PI's name, and then how many hours we worked on that specific project. We have a little detail so that if they go back to the invoices, they can review what's going on. Because sometimes we may not remember, we worked together, but after a couple of months, we may not be able to trace back what was that particular thing that cost like 5 hours or 6 hours. It could be just small edits or other things. So we track all these different tasks so that we invoice fairly to our PIs, as well as we track our time to manage the resources. We're one of the busy units, I can say that, means our utility rate is almost close to 100, which is very much. That means most of the time we are available at our desk, or our phones are readily available for you, or you get a quick reply whenever you send an email to us. We are all I just want to show that we are almost there, and most of the hours are ticked here, so the utility rate is one of the highest. So when it comes to the different units, different types of the activities, what type of activities are going on here? For example, most of the time, it's not most of the time, but 1/3 of the time, you can treat it like this is always the analysis. 1/3 of the time, we are working on analysis projects. But this is a bit tricky because I want to separate it with one of the external projects, that's cancer registry projects. So 1/4 of the time is on this external project, but however, we just split it, the analysis is part of it. So if I take out analysis and put it here, the analysis is close to 50% of the time. So the rest of things are like CIHR grant help is about 9 to 10% of our time, and data management takes 6%, and then dissemination is about 4 to 5% of our time. Then it comes to the other tasks, which are broadly like a sample size or whatever it is. There are all other tasks are like about 6% of time. So it's mostly between kind of analysis and helping grants and some kind of administrative tasks. Administrative tasks also includes testing some systems. Like recently we tested a web-based SaaS software. So that takes some time. So all these kind of services and marketing and other aspects. So this is broadly the type of activities we undertake. Look at the profile of the clients that happen to be at BCU. Most of the time it's a billable time, so we bill most of the time. So that's a good indicator. And about 27% of our clients are from core. And 70% of the time, like a client time, is like internal time, either McGill or MUHC. And then 43% of the projects are led by either students or assistants or trainees, one of the residents or whatever it is. But this is a habit in clinical practice. Mostly the residents and trainees, they take lead of these projects, so there's nothing much surprising there. And then 22% of the project leads to either masters or PhDs, and we have one postdoc. So in general, what I just want to say, when we deal with these projects, the students are supposed to lead these ones, so we can only help them to guide and then check their results, are they doing properly and things like that. So there are different tasks, and the nature of tasks are different. And also we spend 1/5 of our time on services and marketing, and then comes to the 37% of the projects are concluded within a week. So they're pretty small projects, quickly answered, quickly. So with that example, I just want to go to the example 2. This is one of the favorite projects because this project, we've been involved right from the beginning with Dr. Mahyu's group. This group is from the nursing school, McGill, and Dr. Mahyu is a professor at Rollins School of Nursing at McGill University. And also she has cross appointment with the RI-MUHC. So we work on this project right from the beginning, but this project is nicely merged into BCU when it just established, and then this project nicely merged into BCU and its doctrine. So I'm sure Dr. Mahyu paid her invoices recently. So just to explain what type of analysis going on in this is a one-to-one parallel design, a prospective randomized trial conducted in 3 different sites in Montreal. Sorry, there is a bit interruption. Okay. 3 sites in Montreal, Ottawa, and Toronto. Then comes to, we have 2 arms, as I mentioned. One is FORT, which is a fear of recurrence and therapy. The fear of recurrence is generally the patients may have like a fear, worry, or concerns about the cancer may come back. That sort of fear they may have. So they started this intervention. It is a very empirically tested, well-designed, client-focused, one-to-one, 120-minute session intervention. One is a more standard practice. So they have another 120 minutes intervention for a 6 weeks program on the patients, but that's more on a standard practice. This is I call this like a living well with interventions. So living well with cancer, sorry. There are 4 time points. They collected these measurements. There are set of measurements, a huge number of measurements. They collected 4 different points at the intervention, and 1 is after the intervention. And then at the follow-up time of 3 months and 6 months. And then, as I mentioned, just the primary aim is to examine the impact of the 4 on the reduction of the FCR. However, there are several other objectives, like secondary objectives, we'll review as we go. So there are about 70 patients on intervention arm and about 65 patients on the control arm. I'll call it standard practice. So there are various methods we adopted here. At the first of all, we used generalized linear models, and then the generalized estimated equation models to address the primary objectives. And also there was a theoretical framework they did develop based on the previous literature. And then we did tested this hypothetical framework, whether we can validate that or not. So I'll show these graphs maybe in a few minutes. However, recently we also tried a mediation analysis by considering generalized structural equation models. And then we just submitted one of the abstracts, so we are waiting for the results. Probably the asset I could have. So, okay. So just for the sake, for the benefit of those people who may not have statistics background, these repeated measures are, performed on the same subjects, the same measurements in a successive times, and so in this sort of design, as well as a cluster design. So we do use generalized linear models. These models are not new. They've been around for a long time. So what happens was in a general linear model, so you have to follow the residuals has to follow a normal distribution. However, these models give you a liberty. They release you from those assumptions, and you can follow any of these exponential family distributions. You can, depending on the nature of the outcome, you can follow. If it is dichotomy, you can choose a logistic approximation. If there are counts or scores, you can go for Poisson approximation or linear regressions in terms of continuous variables. So we tried these models, and then the first paper we just submitted is under review. I have to thank Dr. Mahu, so she allowed me to show these details. So this paper we just submitted to the Journal of Clinical Oncology, which is under review. We try to address all these primary objectives and also several secondary objectives. In general, the summary is that FORT can reduce the fear and improve the quality of life of a cancer survivor in long term, which I mean like whatever we studied, like 6 months. That's the kind of a summary we have. However, the main analysis, when it comes to the main analysis, clearly shows the fear of recurrence is, the intervention reduces the fear of recurrence tremendously, and then intervention is really effective in this case. And also there are other attributes. There are different scales. As I mentioned, they collected a series of scales. So the scales, some of the subscales like severity is also significant. However, there is a different scales like an impact of event scales, and then something like a health anxiety questionnaires, and physical component summaries and mental component summaries. They're all like very significant. So it's like a mixture of many things. So before this particular paper, in 2018, the same team developed a theoretical model. This is just to validate a theoretical model of fear of recurrence. And they have a hypothetical model based on, again, literature and their experiences. And then they tested this model using different things, but more interestingly, the path analysis using MOS. MOS is the graphical interface we have in SPSS, so it's very easy to draw attention. So the path analysis, everybody know, this is used to describe the directed dependency of a set of variables. It kind of it focuses a regression on causality, and it also implies each of the variables in the causal model in relation between different variables. So this is mainly employed as one of the main analysis to conclude. So this is a sort of results they obtained. I think I'm not good in SPSS, so I think Dr. Label, she's the one who kind of created all this analysis, particularly this graph. So it clearly shows different predictors. We have like 3 predictors. These are the predictors. There are 3 of them. They are predicting the fear of cancer, the triggers, as well as the triggers of illness and uncertainty, and also perceived recurrence, perceived risk of recurrence. These are the kind of 3 different variables or scales they're predicting the FCR. However, surprisingly, in the hypothesis, they have 2 other things that's supposed to have some relation, but it was not. And most of these, you can see here, these are covariances, and these are all kind of, you can interpret as sort of like, coefficients in a regular regression betas. So, and these are the error variables. So I just want to present the analysis in summary. The technical details are just like, what they did was they just theoretically validated a theoretical model for the FCR. I just want to. So we took it from there, and also in the recent analysis we tried, and then we just put it like an abstract. We have not yet completed. We used generalized structural equation models, and then just we put it like an abstracts, and then we come up with In addition to fault intervention, we identified there are different mediators that are playing a very important role in future interventions. So that is.
Ramana, I just want to interrupt you to say that it's 4:32, just so that you're keeping an eye on your time.
Yes, I have 10 minutes, I believe. Yeah, okay. So just to make things like a little quicker, we have series of public. I'm going back again to the unit performance. So in the past 1 year, we have a series of publications. We are working hard with the different PIs and researchers, and then we come up with several publications. I just try to mention here some of very important publications here. We have series of publications in just like 12 months. I just mention here the recent publications. We have last year, we have 2 Lancet oncology journals, one in rheumatology and one in Lancet oncology. And there are 2 under review right now with the same series. And also we have 1 JAMA publication, JAMA surgery, and JNCI. There's one spectrum, JNCI spectrum, there's 1 publication. So what I just want to mention is just we try to do good work with help of different PIs, and the quality of work is really awarded with these publications. That's what I just want to highlight here. And in the grant application support, in the last year itself, we involved in more than 50 grants. I just try to list out some of these grants here. The recent grant itself, we involved there are 11 grants. We helped with the CHR competition grant, to submit these grants. And to my knowledge, I still remember we won 2 out of 7 COVID competitions, and then 2 out of 10 DOD, 2 or 3. I mean, third one is now they resubmitted, so I'm not sure about that. So we have a good success rate, about 20%, 25% among all these attempts. So I just quickly go over here. And also we work in several projects. Just to highlight that, in last year alone, we worked with 84 clients, over 200 projects. That means we have repeated clients on average. Each client may have 2 to 3 projects with us. So that shows a good indicator, they're all repeated clients. And then we are working in harmony with the same clients. So I will try to do it in 5 minutes, but I'm not sure we can finish in next 5 minutes, but I'll try to do it a little quick. So as I mentioned, we have an external project with Quebec Cancer Registry. On behalf of Quebec Cancer Registry, it happened that we involved in the various collaborative efforts. This is with the international organizations like WHO. The Lyon is IARC, most of you know, particularly those who are working in cancer research, International Agency for Research on Cancer, with Dr. Freddy's group. And then there's another SARUMARC. This is a cancer survival project, which is centrally organized by London School of Health and Tropical Medicine, London. And also our local national cancer societies, like a Canadian Cancer Society, and there is a cancer program in PHAC, led by Dr. Alan Damers and others. And we also work with the local Quebec government and producing several projects and their annual reports. We're working hard now on 2013 to 17 data. We are scheduled to release the incidence cases in sometime next spring. So that leads to several projects, and one of them are the Cancer Survival Project. This is one of the prestigious projects we were involved and then contributed from our BCU. So I want to highlight this in 2 minutes. This is a multi-center study conducted by WHO, IARC, and then Quebec is part of that, and then we are regularly interacting with these people. And then this study that come out with a net survival. Everybody knows net survival calculated by different ways. One is if you know the cause specific survival, it's very nice that you can calculate the net survival straight away. But if you don't have, you have to take a general population experience, mortality experience of the general population, and then you take observed survival upon the expected survival that you derive from these life tables of the general population. But still, that has some issues to compare different regions or different countries because they experience different mortality situation. So then this Pohar Perm PP estimate is one of the latest ones in 2012. It's been invented. So we work on some of those aspects like net survival. So here, this is like a four-dimensional graph. You can see. I love to present this just as a matter of this. Probably some of you would like to replicate this at some point. So this shows like a different cohort period. This is like 94 to 99. This is 2000 to 4. Each of these arrows represent a different period cohort. This is 2000 to 2004 and 2004 to 2005 to 9, and then 10 to 14. These are different. So it shows, particularly I'm talking this arrow because this belongs to Canada. In Canada, esophagus cancer improved in past like 15 years. It improved from somewhere 9% to almost like 20%. So that gives you a multi-dimensional picture of different sites, different countries, different periods, as well as we also have a stratification of less than 75 years, more than 75 years. I didn't show this because it's too much. So all these survival analysis may have some biases because generally at registry level, we have two sets of data. One is the routine practices. People just gather the information from pathology labs or clinical labs. And then other side, if they miss that data or the information, the only way we can take a case is from the autopsy. If at the time of autopsy, it just mentioned the person died of tumor or cancer. And then you have to go back and trace that patient when that incidence might have happened, and then put it back in that particular year. Let's say this guy, he just kind of, onset is 1994. You go back and then register the case in 1994. This is the usual practice. But because of that, it's okay, completeness-wise and otherwise, the registry level, it's very good in terms of completeness. But however, it affects the cancer survival. So it leads to some sort of a bias. So there are different papers we're working on kind of adjusting these biases. This bias may be due to randomness and non-randomness, maybe due to a predictor, particularly whatever, like a prognosis is one of them. So, particularly pancreatic cancer and others with poor prognosis, there is a high chance that we miss it. So there may be a different non-random variables that are involved in that. So we do quite few simulation methods. There are simulation techniques were developed. It's been there in place for a long time. People use the fitted distributions like a Weibull distribution and others, and then they choose different scenarios, then they try to fit what extent these biases may happen in terms of net survival. This is one classic example. There are two types of bias. It could go once we include these DCI patients, then there may be a different sorts of estimation. Then once we exclude, there is another type of bias. So these graphs are showing like different types of biases that may incorporate because of this particular cancer. These various simulation studies really come up with what extent this could go wrong, these net estimates. So first couple of scenarios, it looks fine, but whenever it deviates from different assumptions, probably we can see some of the estimates we presented in the first graph probably slightly biased or whatever it is. So I skip this because the concept is more or less same. Challenges. I'm coming back to BCU again. One of the biggest challenges is the human component, because the clients we are dealing with is very different. They are very different. And also consultants are different. If you work with me, if you work with Zun or Frederick, we are different. And so this kind of a variability or adaptability is one of the key things and challenges for us when we need to adapt to different type of environment. That's one thing. And institutional policies, one thing I want to highlight about institutional policies is that the particularly a consulting industry works in a different norms. Everything should be done in a quick and this one. But whereas the institutional policies sometimes may have their own issues, like getting a laptop quickly, or we have to go through a policies, like a bidding process. We have to go through regular procedures. So there always we need to have some concessions for the consulting sections or consulting groups, and also the preparedness. It's not just by how many people are working, how much we are billing and things like that, but also we are getting ready for the future. Let's say in case we may have big projects or new projects, how big we are prepared. I'm not talking about BCU right now, but I'm generally talking about any consulting environments. And here is kind of there is a extremely wide range of problems people come with, like research problems we deal with. So sometimes it looks like a very small task, but it could burn hours of our time because we have to make sure things are things are fine and they're in place. The clients are also with diverse backgrounds. I covered that point. And also expectations when somebody comes to us and then they want like this. One of the funny thing I always listen from our clients is like, oh, if the results are fine, then you can do that, or like that. So it's not in our jurisdiction. Maybe many times it's your design or some other reasons why you are facing. So identifying role is very important when client approach to us, and then we have to make sure what role we are going to play in that team. Let's say you just want small assistance on particular analysis or something like that, or else you are allowing us to lead the analysis strategy and other things, how you manage data management. Are you having local resources, or you have a capable student or trainee to deal with this one, or you want to put it on my desk, or you want to treat it like a collaborator? Because a lot of people, a lot of clients, they request collaborative agreements, letters, and things like that. So identifying role is very key for all of us. And then finally, I just want to leave it on a positive note. See, this is the consulting is with the heavy consulting loads, and then there's a little time because one after other there are many requests comes. And then you don't have much time to focus on learning, which is a very key point for us, because you need to constantly learn things and then update yourself in terms of methods, techniques, programming, whatnot, everything, whatever you do. So we need to reserve some kind of a time for the self-development. We are glad all these different sessions, particularly this series is very helpful because we are able to listen to all these renowned scientists across the globe, so that we get a chance to learn more and more in our like that, whatever programs and attending conferences, whatever it takes. You need to learn constantly. You need to learn. If you're really feeling a little bit out of your space, you need to talk to the management and then make some arrangements. Probably you need a vacation, whatever you want. So then comes to the consultants need to educate between a consultant statistician and a study statistician. This is a very key point in our circuit. So you can't just ask me just for a small question. Can you check that frequency? What happens is I again have to establish the entire, because we work with multiple projects. So I have to get back to the projects. It takes some time to again establish what you are requesting and looking at the programs, understanding the question. And then, so it may burn like an hour just for a small question like that. So gather all your points, and then probably we will work like, okay, maybe we'll fix a time and then we can have these exchanges. So there is a difference between a study statistician and a consultant statistician. You come to us with the bulk of work so that it's more cost effective. And many times, one of the argument we never had, luckily, we are very lucky to have great people around. But the negotiations on authorships are always very critical and very key, to establish a relationship between RI, like PI, and then the consultant here, because it's very important to claim the research integrity, particularly when we are contributing with the analysis strategy and type of analysis and other things. Probably you may have to accommodate them as a co-author. So all these things clearly negotiate, means we try to negotiate as much as, and then I tell you, most of our PAs are extremely generous. I have no complaints about that. So I'm very glad for that. But however, these terms has to be clearly mentioned, and then we need to talk them very clearly in the initial point, so that there won't be any misunderstandings on this stand. More or less, I completed. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Raman. You had mentioned that Dr. Mehu will be saying a few words. Would you like her to say that right now before?
Yes, it's because, as I mentioned, Dr. Mehu, over you. Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Raman. Thank you, Nandini. So for me, yes, as Dr. Raman was saying, we've had a long relationship, and I think even with the pilot of the fear of cancer recurrence study was back in 2011, 12, or 13. So it's way back. And what I really appreciated, so if I'm from the nursing department, and one thing about me is that I love statistics, but statistics does not love me, meaning it doesn't stick on me. I mean, I have to relearn and relearn. And I have to say that when I go see Raman, he's very patient in order to also guide me in all the questions that I have. I mean, I come in prepared, like he says, I put all my questions together, so I know what I want, but sometimes he has to redirect me to see what is feasible. So with the type of studies I want to do, what is feasible for data analysis, with the measures I'm using, again, what's feasible. So he's been great. And I say what's also helpful, that difference he was making in the roles, consultant being part of the team, it's having somebody involved right from the beginning, so that you don't end up after, when you've collected all your data, and then you got this great statistician that tells you, we can do this kind of analysis, we can't answer your hypotheses, it's not the right measure, you didn't use the right procedure. So I always appreciate that right from the conception of a project, we include Raman to help us define the power analysis, to define the sample size, to formulate the best rigorous data analysis plan that fits with the hypothesis we want to do, and then keep him informed as well as the project evolves, and also helping, how is the best way to prepare for the data, inserting the data so that it's manageable. So for data management, so that he can work with it for the statistical analysis. So I've always appreciated that for us, it's a relationship where it has many measurement time points that we see each other. And like now we've just finished, we spent the whole summer with Frédéric and Raman, who were extremely available and helpful to help us build the analysis, to conduct the analysis, and to provide feedback as we were building the tables. And so our paper is under review, but I'm looking forward to seeing it published. I'm just putting some notes, and Raman has been generous with me in terms of when I teach the doctoral research course. Like I say, I love stats, but it's hard for me to even explain it clearly. So what I do is I often will ask Raman, can you do a guest lecture in my statistical analysis session, so that I know I'm not gearing the students in the wrong direction. So he's always been generous where he comes in and explains it in an extremely clear manner. They've always appreciated. I've always received really good feedback from the students, and even saying it was one of their best session of the course. So there you go. So it's been really nice, this relationship, and working with the Department of Statistics. And then in terms of also being implicating Raman from the beginning for the CRHR grant, yes, we had submitted for CRHR, we didn't get it, but now with the feedback, I'll share that with Raman, and of course we're going to be reapplying coming up this next March for CRHR. So Raman, reserve some time, because that's coming in January. We're going to review the analysis approach.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Kristen, for that vote of support for Raman and the BCF. So I think we should thank Raman, first of all, for his talk. This is one of the sort of limitations of the Zoom format. But I'd like to open the floor to questions. There's one question that's appeared here in the chat. And so, Tanya, do you want to ask your question, please?
Okay. I was intrigued by the amount of the small amount of data management time you showed in your pie of your time breakdown. So I was wondering how you managed to have such a small amount of time, or is it included in the analysis, or do you give detailed instructions to the researchers on how to clean and prepare the data for the analysis?
That's a very good question, Tanya, because data analysis is a major obstacle. Particularly, when we plan the time, we're ready to go and do the analysis, but we saw, okay, this data is not really in the format that we can go ahead and do the analysis. So it may take like 5 hours, 10 hours extra time. So what happens is, generally, if it is possible, we request the researcher or their associates or trainees, whomever is there, to work with us to clean and put it in a way what we want. So we work with them closely so that we could get the data in our required formats. However, not everybody is capable, because sometimes a very complex data. Recently, Frederick really helped us with some of these data management things. So very complex things come. So it's maybe more easy for us to do that. So we take over from them, and then we do it quickly, so that because we know that it's nearly impossible, because we had to do many permutations and combinations to arrange the data. So it depends on the situation, but most of the times we take help from the team, so that that's the reason we could able to control that component a little bit.
Thank you. That was a very interesting indeed response there. So that's something all of us need to learn. It's possible to turn and request your researcher colleague to please do some upfront data cleaning before they come to you.
Mm-hmm. And if I may, again, this is where we work with Raman in terms when we have to recode some data. I'll ask him, if it's done properly, if we're entering our data this way, will this be analyzable? So definitely a good feedback is worth it there.
There's a second question I see here in front of me, which I'm going to ask, and then I'll again ask the audience. It's actually from Christine again, and she was asking whether students have to pay for consultation and analysis. So you mentioned a large number of trainees are consulting the BCF. Are the same fees applicable to them?
Yes, actually, we don't work with students, number one, because we work with only PIs. So whenever we have an agreement with BCU, so the PI has to have a commitment with us. That's important. It doesn't matter. It may be a student project. So, and also it's very important. I always want the supervisor should be present in the first meeting, because initial meeting is very important, because it happened in a couple of occasions where a student came and then we discussed, and then we devised a plan, and the next time the supervisor came and he said, no, we are not in the right direction. The plan is different thing. So it may happen. So most of the time, whenever we are, particularly the initial meeting, I want the supervisor to be present. We always insist, if possible, unless they have a clinical work or something else, they try to present most of the time. And some of the students are really capable. So some of the trainees, they're really on the top of everything. They're fine. But still, it is kind of, from our side, we do request for the presence of the supervisor, and the contract is always with the PI. We don't deal with students.
Great, thank you for that response. Any other questions for Raman? You can either post in the chat or you can speak up. Of course, just remember to unmute yourself if you're speaking.
It's Kaberi. I just want, not a question, but I want to thank Nandini, you for inviting Raman, and Raman for all the really great work he's doing. We've been working hard at CORE to build platforms that that really enhance our methodologies. And so this is hopefully the first of many platforms to come. And I think one of the aspects that's worked really well is Raman is now within our academic environment. We have, as he showed you, our advisory panel of faculty level statisticians who now are less bombarded by the multiple requests that they would normally get. So I think it streamlines work well, and it's really important for us as a research institute to have a dedicated service platform by very competent people. So that's been excellent. And just building on the data capture and management front, we are, as many of you know, working on a platform on that front. And our scientific advisor on that platform will be Isabelle Fortier. So I'm still trying to get the funding ready to be able to launch that, but that's going to be another big addition. So thank you again, Raman, for an excellent overview. And I encourage you all to use the platform to its capacity, and the more it's used, the more we'll build it and grow it.
Thank you, Kabiri. In fact, I have a question sort of taking off from Kabiri's from her comment. So Raman, I think in one of your slides, you mentioned that there's possibility that the BCF might reach out to make space somehow for students. But I think especially because the way I see it is it's really got to be a symbiotic relationship between the BCF and many other things that go on at McGill and MUHC RI. And one important, I think, piece of that is that we have a lot of students who are trained at McGill and who would hopefully go on to do consulting. But as we can see from your presentation, just because you've got a degree in statistics doesn't mean you can start consulting. You need some tact. You need some. I mean, it would be very nice if you could be trained within a framework like the BCF. So what has been your experience with working with sort of part-time students, if any? Do you think there's a place for that in the future?
There is really a place for that. But in terms of a supervision, I mean, of course, we discussed partially these things in our next, probably we can discuss more in detail in our next advisory committee meeting. However, we touched this point in the last advisory committee meeting. Dr. Plott raised this, and then we have some sort of a solution to come up with some sort of a framework where the supervisors are kind of looking after most of the things. However, they will be working closely. Maybe they will spend a day or two at BCU and maybe given a specific project, particularly, initially we do have a plan, like, they may be involved in kind of invoice-based consultancy too. But at this point, it depends on the capacity of the students. If they're really ready to do a lot of these, analysis and ready to do data management or whatever it is, and then we have, let's say, resources. We have enough work for additional person to be incorporated. That's a great area where we can work with some of these projects, student-based projects. But also there was one or two requests, like a practicum, there was an experimental surgery or some other courses where they have to do their practicum, and they're approaching me whether can we spend like 2 months or 3 months, but that's at free of cost. There is no money involved or anything. Then I still have to discuss with the management and leadership, because it's not just having people around, but also, making them to sit somewhere. And then, particularly in COVID times right now, during this period, it's a little difficult to access our facility.
Correct. All right. Yes, and proper supervision would be important.
And maybe we can streamline this aspect in the next advisory committee.
Yes. Okay. I know that's definitely a very positive possibility. And are there any other questions from the audience?
Hi, sorry, I had a question.
Yes, can you speak up, please?
Is my voice better now?
Yes, now I can hear you clearly. Yes, please.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Kumar, for the great presentation. My name is Parsa, and I'm from Dr. Fury's lab. I know that you work with a lot of PIs, and I was wondering, is it because I'm kind of not the expert in this field, Is it more that the PIs come to you for the data and for the all the statistical work, or is it you who is more providing all the resolutions or like providing solutions to their projects?
Okay, it happens both sides. In a couple of occasions, I do attend research days. For example, if they have a team, they're working on a team meeting, like, you know, they have a, what you call, I don't know exactly terminology wise, they have one of the days, entire unit, they gather and they talk about research projects and other things in any clinical setting. It's like a academic day or research day, whatever they call. So there are occasions that people invite me just to come and present all the procedures, how we deal with them and things like that. So there are a couple of occasions where I went myself as a matter of get to know the facility as well as to deal with them. But in most of the cases right now, the PIs, they go through the services website, or it's a word mouth to mouth. So if somebody refer, okay, I have taken this service from BCU, so you can also take it. It's always, it works in many ways. Right now we are very busy because the source comes from different ways. One is they approach based on the whatever website we have, and then, you know, there is a description about how to reach us. And also the PIs, they talk, you know, they exchange and they see, okay, I need some statistical, do you know somebody? Then they say, okay, I worked last month or last year with Rama and BCU, with Frederick or Zun, whatever, you know, then they come here, end up contacting BCU. So it works in many ways, but the strategy, if you guys would like to talk, it's always easy. You know, you can call us or you can send an email. We are always available to address your concerns here.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar.
Raman, yeah.
Thank you, Parsa. That was a good question. And if there are any other questions, could you speak up? Because if not, I think we'll close the seminar. I'd like to thank once more Ramana for an excellent presentation. And yeah, very nice to see a mix of the projects you're dealing with and the experiences you're going through, and looking forward to a long life for this unit. Thank you very much.